The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.
Welcome. I'm Riley Karsh.
I'm Tova Kopan.
We are thrilled to bring you the We Go Boldly podcast.
Let's talk big burning questions, life changes, and maybe a bit of personal business.
Let's be bold and brave together. Are you ready?
I am. Here comes the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Go Boldly, the podcast. We are, as always, very excited to have you guys with us today. Before we even dive in any way, I want to, make a note that you may have noticed about a bit of a change around here. We are officially now a part of the Power Moms Network. So first, I just want to say we are incredibly thrilled to be included in the Power Moms Network. It's a dream that we've had from the beginning of starting this podcast. And so to be there now is, just really, really satisfying. We did it. But also just to be involved in the beginnings of such an incredible network is really, really a cool thing. So all of you know, one of the reasons we're excited to be a part of the network is because the Power Moms Network is a community of mothers mentoring other mothers to greatness. And as you may have noticed, the whole premise around here at We Go Boldly is to provide space, learning, and empowerment to women who want to improve their lives. So that naturally includes moms out there. So we are a match made in heaven. If you have a minute, check out Power Moms Network online. It is a very, very cool place to go. So all of that being said, it's not interview day. It's Tova and Riley day. And we're talking all about how to make a joy list today. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am not feeling super joyful. And I think that this is a super, super important episode for me personally. I'm going to try and take notes from my own notes as we go because I need to do this. I know Tova, I'm going to say hi to you in 1 second, but she just was talking to me about needing to make her own joy list. So we are in this with you, folks. We are in the trenches of the joy list with you guys today. So before we get into the details of what in the world we're talking about, let me say hi to my incredible co-host, Tova. How are you today, Tova? What is going on?
Well, I'm good, but also I think a lot has happened since we have last recorded. So yeah. For those of you at home, you heard us talk last week about something that I know because I just posted the episode.
Yeah, we were talking last week about finding hobbies.
Finding hobbies. That's what it was.
Yep.
And what you don't know, although I think we made a joke about it, that this would be airing in May, but we were in sweaters because it was cold, is that we actually recorded a ton of episodes in March because I was going to go have surgery. And so I did. I had surgery April 1st. I got boobs, which is that's something you can put on your joy list. Yay!
That is at the top of the joy list.
And so, and if you're new to the podcast, just as an aside, while I am all for people who just don't like their boobs to go get boobs, in my particular case, mine were trying to kill me. And so I had to cut them off and then get new ones. So you can go back and listen to those stories. But so we pre-recorded a ton just in case we couldn't get them done during my medical leave, hoping that we would be able to record. It turns out we didn't record for a variety of reasons. Riley ran into her own medical issues, and then we had computer issues, and then just life issues as they happen, because May is busier than December. I think we should start calling December Maycember and then just leave May alone, because December is joyful compared to May, as busy as May is. And so here we are recording this with no episodes in the bank. We went from having so many to zero.
It's a little stressful, everybody.
It's a little stressful, but that's why we need our joy list. And I'll be honest, when Riley wrote the outline, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, she was like, I really need to write this outline because I need some joy. And ever since we're like, we really need to record this because we need to have this conversation. And I think you'll understand why. And I know one of the first things we're going to dive into when we talk about joy is the difference between joy and happiness. And it's a really important difference. And it's one of my favorite definitions to understand the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, just to kind of understand, I feel like just for everybody, I feel like June is the new January for me, because this year, at least this year, I feel like this year, everything has put the start of the new year just kind of in a suspension. Because it was like waiting until surgery and then surgery. And now it's like, oh, okay, now we can start the new year, to the point that last week during our circle, I was like, wait, what was my word of the year again? I think I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah.
And fortunately I did. And I really wanted it to be positive and not something that the universe could play games with, which, let's be honest, the universe always knows how to play games with me.
Right.
So we'll see what it has in store. But last year, my word was accept, and it gave me cancer. And while I don't think the universe gave me cancer, I do think that it did give me something to teach me about acceptance. So this year, my word is joyful, not like joyful, one word, but like joy-full, with like an emphasis on filling my world with joy.
Yeah.
And that concept, and making sure I'm taking the steps. Pretty much this episode is what my word of the year is. My word of the year is this episode. So I'm really excited because I will be following this how-to guide for the rest of the year. No matter what the universe throws at me, I will be coming back to what we talk about in this how-to guide.
I love it. Yeah, it has been 6 weeks since I wrote this. I actually just reread it myself this morning. Like, wait, what did I say? And it's interesting, my own personal experience, and then I promise we're going to get into those definitions. Since I wrote it to now, has given me a wildly different perspective on even the research I did and like the data that I found and all those things. Because I'm not going to go into all the details of my chaos right now, but like it's been one thing after another all spring, and none of them are like, well, some of them are kind of major, but none of them are like life-threatening. And so like all together, it's a lot, and it's very hard to find yourself looking for joy or experiencing joy or like even commenting on the concept of joy when things are really chaotic and overwhelming and frustrating. And so that's one of the reasons I said in the very beginning, this is such an important episode to me, because I was reading, I don't know, I think it might have been a Pima Chodron book. I was reading something recently, and it gave this example of a story of like a kid who was at the beach, and he's like, oh, I'm at the beach, this stinks, I hate it. And then somebody comes running up next to them, and they're like thrilled and excited, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, the beach is the most amazing, there's so much water, and going on and on and on. And it changed that other like sort of quote negative thinking kid's life, because they were like, perspective, right? Like one person's like, whatever, is another person's like, this is the most amazing, wonderful thing I've ever had. Obviously there are some contexts where that's probably not true, like cancer. But there are opportunities to change your perspective at all times. And so this joy list, I think, is one of those ways we can do that.
I do just have to say, though, my favorite thing about everything, yes, everything you just said, but also one of my favorite things that you just said is that you're like, there's so much water. And that is exactly how I feel with the ocean. Like, oh my God, there's so much water. Like, yes, that is why I love the ocean. There's so much water. And as like, I don't know if it's the cancer sign in me or the fact that I was born in July, which I recognize is the same thing as the cancer sign in me, but like, whatever, or just like how much I love water. Those all three things I could be saying the same thing, but like I just love water. I don't drink enough of it for someone who loves water so much, but I'm just like, yes, there's so much water. I do feel better when I'm surrounded by it. And like, that's the way I feel when I'm like driving towards the ocean. Like, look, there's so much water.
Yeah.
And
It
you
was
both like so little and so big.
I wish I could remember where I was reading it to reference it for you all, because I obviously paraphrased it dramatically and it was a really cool story. I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes if I can. But let's dive in, and talk about some definitions and like what is it that we mean when we're talking about creating a joy list. So a couple things I ran into in doing this research, and that was like the idea that we need to find a distinction between joy and happiness, because culturally we like hawk happiness like it's, like it's the new latest drug, right? Like it's going to change your life and everything's going to be perfect if you can just find the mythical happiness out there. And so definitionally, feelings like happiness usually come from external sources and they are temporary, which is why trying to find the mythical happiness, I think, is such a fallacy, right? Like if that's what you're searching for, yeah, you'll probably find it for like 5 minutes. And in the next 5 minutes, you'll bust up your knee and you won't be so happy anymore. Take it from me.
I was going to say random example.
Yeah, I know. So weird. But on the flip side of that, joy comes from within, right? It's a part of who you are and how you express yourself. Now, that is not to say that you have to be joyful 100% of the time. That's not realistic. And so if you are like me and you read that and you're like, listen, there is no being joyful when I can't walk down my stairs. Like that is not joyful to me. However, like I could be joyful 90% of the time, right? Or even 50%, or some days like 10%. It is what it is. It's not an all or nothing concept. So when we talk about joy, we're talking about like an emotion that is evoked by well-being, by whatever you define as success, contentment, the prospect of getting to what it is that you hope you were going to get to. I know this is all kind of ephemeral, but there's a reason for that, because joy is unique to you, right? Like the example I gave in the beginning, what you find joyful, someone else might not, and that's okay. It's unique to you, and it usually comes from your ability to gain that perspective I was talking about, right? Like sometimes it's just like you see a beautiful sunset and you're like, oh, the universe is amazing, and those kinds of things. But sometimes you have to work for joy. And I think that's really important to recognize that it doesn't just come all the time.
Well, so two things. So first, you have a quote up here, and it's Moskowitz, and I don't know who.
I forget. It's a scientist, some sort of.
So this is a scientist. I think it's probably a psychologist because that name is familiar. And all I can think though of is the Mouskowitz from The American Tale.
Yes.
But it says, we're not saying don't be sad or upset about what's going on, but we know people can experience positive emotion alongside the negative emotion, and that positive emotion can help them cope better. And I think this is so important because we are not talking about finding silver linings.
Yeah.
We are talking about the both and. And, there is a family in town dealing with horrible grief right now in the loss of one of the parents. And I have seen the way the family has shown up because it's Maycember again, right? And they have concerts and they have activities and they have to go to them. I mean, they don't have to, but they're choosing to go to them and participating in them. And I'm seeing laughter because there is still joy, right?
Yeah.
They are grieving. I've been texting with the mom and she's like, I'm forgetting everything. We were going to walk this morning. And she's like, oh, surprise orthodontist appointment. And I was like, I prefer my surprises to come in the form of ice cream, but I guess orthodontist appointments are okay.
Or like $5 in the dryer.
Yeah. Right. Like, but they are finding the joy in like the in between. Yeah. And I think that, in my attempts to find laughter in more things, I do think it's easier to find the joy in when you make an effort at finding joy tends to find you more.
Yeah.
And I find when you have kids, it makes it both easier and harder to find joy. So unless you can only derive joy from peace and calm, in which case, I'm sorry if you have kids, but
yeah, that probably didn't work out. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, I'm like actually cackling at people. That's terrible.
But I think that, like, on one hand, if you have kids, it you know, because we're going to talk about the how-tos of finding joy and mindfulness, you know, it's hard to achieve that with children because you're racing from point A to point B a fair amount. Even people who are like organized and you give yourself enough time and you limit the number of activities, there is still a level of racing that is involved with children.
Yeah.
Simply because they move so slowly. And so I think that, you know, on one hand, it makes it harder to find joy because you're like, but if you just move faster, if you just moved a little faster. On the other hand, aren't they the ones that sometimes stop and they're like, oh my God, look at that thing? And you're whatever it is, you know, when they're younger, it's a training or a tractor equipment or whatever, that as they get older, it becomes more interesting and to you as well. And then, but then I find that, like, as they get older, you're the one who finds the thing and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that. Like, look at that cool thing. And you're trying to draw them to notice something. And you're finding the joy for them. So it's, you know, it's kind of like there's joy in the finding too, right?
Yeah.
Like there's joy in the seeking. So my point is, I wanted to highlight that quote before we went too far into it, that this is not something that is a silver lining, and it's not something that you can only find when you're not grieving, when you're not in pain, when you're not dealing with cancer, you know, when things are right. And it is not, like you said, it's not the destination.
Yeah.
It is the thing that you find in the cracks, in the in-betweens, during the stuff.
Right. Well, and I think importantly, and we've said this about a bunch of things over the last however many years, and it's a practice, right? Like you have to work at it. And I said that already several times, and I'll just keep saying it because I think it's super important. I spent a lot of years thinking like there was something inherently wrong with me because I had a negative outlook and I didn't feel a lot of joy. I didn't like experience a lot of joy, which I thought was happiness at that time, just as a side note. And the reality is there's nothing wrong with me. I just didn't know how to do it. Like I needed someone to show me do what we're doing now. I needed somebody to show me the way, right? And so you can cultivate joy. You can create joy in your life. You can figure out how to experience it more often and more deeply, all these things. So the benefits of cultivating joy and creating joyful moments in your life are like plentiful, but I have 4 particular in this list that I think stand out. And it is important to note that it's an act of self-care, right? To cultivate joy is an act of deep, deep self-care and care for the people around you. So and in that vein, like the first benefit is creating more meaningful relationships, right? Like feeling joy, creating joy in your life improves your mood. And I do want to note, just like, and I know I keep saying we're going to move forward, but I keep thinking of other things. You know, it's very hard to feel joy when you're depressed or super, super anxious. And so it's a bit of a catch-22 being depressed. Like you're depressed, and so you're sad and you're lethargic, or you're feeling, you know, all the things you're feeling. And it's very hard to even imagine that you could possibly feel joy. So if that's the case, please find a therapist and find help for that, because you can get out of it. You know, it's not a life sentence.
I was going to actually say, like, if you are listening to this and you dig in and you listen to all these tips and tricks and ideas that we're giving you, and you're like, none of these are working, reach out to somebody. Because like there's nothing wrong with you. Like you're not broken. You just might need a little help.
Right.
And that's fine. But like these but like, you know, these could work. Like,
right.
Something could spark joy
and will likely work if you are able to experience them. And when you are depressed, it is very hard to experience anything outside of your depression. So all of that being said, you can create more meaningful relationships. You can have more mindfulness in your life. Like you were talking about, Tova, that ability to be present, which let's be honest, like I am present like 10% of my day at this point because it's, as you said, Maycember. I can't remember who has what when, even though it's in like 7 different calendars. It's hard, man. It's really hard right now. And so being present becomes harder. But having that like concept of cultivating joy forces me to be more mindful, to like notice what's going on around me, to notice how much I love the way like the tree moves in the wind or whatever. And I love it. Like if I look at it, I'm like, wow, God, that's fascinating. I don't know why. I just do. And that's what I mean about cultivating joy. That brings me joy. Other people might be like, pollen. I don't know.
You're
So
like, it's both though, friend.
yeah,
It's a both
100%.
and.
It's a both and for me. I love that pollen. Um, so I think it's important to focus on the things it can bring you, right? It creates more positive thoughts. And more positive thoughts create more positive thoughts. Not that and I don't know why I keep caveating this. Of course, you're going to have negative thoughts, but the more positive thoughts you have, the better. And then self-compassion. So important to um, be okay with yourself. Like be kind to yourself. Give yourself latitude. And the more you practice finding joy, the more you're going to be able to do that. We need to take a break. So we've kind of,
I forgot about
yeah,
that.
we've kind of gone through like the fundamentals here. And so we'll take a break. When we come back, we are going to explain to you what a joy list is specifically and how to identify sources of joy. So we will be right back after this break. Well, hey there, dream chaser. Are you ready to make the next 12 months of your life unforgettable? Introducing the Year of You, a groundbreaking new goal system group that's about to redefine the way we approach personal growth. Join us with a community of like minded individuals committed to unlocking their full potential with expert guidance, personalized strategies, kind hearted accountability, and a supportive network. The Year of You is more than just a goal setting group, it's a whole movement. Don't just dream about it, achieve it. Click in the link in our show notes or go ahead and visit us at goboldlyinitiative.com/year of you to learn more today. Let's embark on a transformative journey together towards becoming the best versions we can be. The Year of You, where your goals become reality. Okay, so welcome back to the show. Before the break, I said we were going to tell you what a joy list even is and how you identify some sources of joy. I'll just say that a joy list is exactly what it sounds like. We love lists, right? We're always talking about the like 115 things you can do to blah, blah, blah. Now, normally we make fun of those. In this case, the more you put on your joy list, the better. So the purpose
And the bigger variety, the better.
yeah, exactly. Because it just gives you more opportunity, right? So it's a pretty simple concept. You write down all of the things that bring you joy, whatever you derive joy from. And it could be something super basic, like your first sip of coffee in the morning, which for me is not all that basic, to like something much bigger, like vacation with your family to Europe. I don't know, whatever it is for you. And you write it all down. And you write it all down and then you keep it handy, right? Like, so maybe you put it in your phone or you hang it on your fridge or you put it around your house somewhere, having it available to you to refer to and just remind you helps you build that practice.
Mm-hmm. I also want to, when I talk about variety, and I know you said this, what I mean by variety too is like, if you need something like right in that moment that you can do it, like, and some things that are free.
Yeah.
Some things that require nothing. Like maybe it's, I like to go sit on my porch. Some things that require money, some things that require people, some things that don't require people. So if you just need like a hit of joy in that moment that you can, like it says prioritize based on their significance and feasibility, but something that you can just like get. And what I like about it is I like to have one that I hang up in my house, but then I also like to have a running joy list. Like we have one that we've kind of shared in our notes app.
Yep.
That you and I share, so that like we're like, these would be fun things to do together.
Right.
And I think we've gone for the approach of the wackier the better, I think is what we've tried.
Well, we like to do like weird out of the box things. So
yeah. And so I think that like then if you get a wacky idea, you're like, ooh, that would be fun. Let's try that out.
Yeah.
And some things like I am not in a place right now where going on a family trip to Europe is financially feasible, but planning a trip to Europe is feasible.
Right.
And I find a lot of joy in planning trips. And also learning how much a trip actually is.
Right.
Like the other day, I was watching Mission Impossible and I learned how much the Orient Express would cost to take a little tour around Italy. Shockingly large amount of money, but shockingly large amount of money for a 2-night, 3 days.
Right. But now you know.
But now I know. But also, I was watching the Lindsay Lohan Ireland movie not that long ago, and I learned how much a trip to Ireland to go backpack, like not backpacking, but kind of like hopping and like vanning and hiking kind of thing, really not that much at all. Like way less. So like, just think outside the box too. And both I could do on the comfort of my couch, both planning. Right. So I think, writing things down and creating that list can be incredibly helpful. That we have a list of questions that can help you get started in thinking about like how to create this list, right? So like, what are things you look forward to? So like, if you look at your next month, what are some things that you look forward to do on your calendar? Like, is there a coffee date with somebody that you're looking forward to? Is there a concert that you're going to see, or a new TV show that's coming out, or whatever? What makes you happy? Like, what do you do that makes you happy? What really lights you up? So if you get really excited about something, or something fills you with light, which is the same as the question, but and no passing judgment. So it could be like being at home with my book.
Right.
That is an acceptable answer, as much as going out with friends.
And it might, well, yeah, and it might be both, right? Like,
right.
I think it's important for people to understand when you're saying, Tova, like variety, you really mean variety. Like, put everything on this list because it will help you see the joy that already exists in your life.
Yes. And one thing I have learned, interestingly enough, from this podcast, and probably from you, Riley, is like, one of the things that I do a check-in with myself when I hang out with people is like, did this person drain my battery or not? Right. And so I would probably have specific people. And I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but like specific people for my joy list.
Yeah.
Like, because being, I had a friend that came over the other night, and she came over, we had takeout and we worked on the puzzle. And sometimes we talked and sometimes we didn't. And she liked the fact, she has ADHD, and she liked the fact that I did not care that she just did the puzzle. And like, at no point did I like expect her to talk or not. Like, sometimes she did, sometimes she didn't. I didn't need her to engage when I wanted to tell her a story. And we both just worked on the puzzle. And like, it was such a nice night. And it was really nice for her though, because she got to like hyper focus on something.
Right.
And didn't feel like she needed to do eye contact or anything. And it, you find that in somebody. But some other questions, like happy places, right? Like, or a happy place, like, just if you are coming up blank, this is why I like having the notes app on your, like, or something on your phone to kind of keep track over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, and just like an ongoing list. Hopefully a couple things will be like, hopefully you have a short list at the very beginning. Like, you can think of 5 or 10 things that you're like, oh yeah, I like to do these things. Right. I like to sit outside at night, or I like to do X, Y, or Z. And what it hits me is like, I love to sit outside, and I never do, because I forget that I like to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
yes, absolutely. I love to sit in my backyard. And then I'm like, I haven't sat in my backyard in a month.
Right. Exactly. Do you have a favorite part of your day? right? Is it your early morning coffee? Is it the sunrise? Is it the sunset? Like one reason I love winter is that you can see the sunrise and you don't have to get up early. Like people complain about how it's dark all the time, but do you know that you can get up at 6:45
and still
7
see the
o'clock and
sunrise?
yeah, like it's fantastic.
Yeah.
We just talked about people with positive energy. Also, what matters to you? I think this one's really hard. This is like a really hard question, but like it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, but it's, so the reason I like this question is because it forces you to think about your values, what's important to you in your life, who is important to you in your life. It could be interpreted in any number of directions. And if you're struggling to figure that out, maybe try taking our personal mission statement course, because that can help you sort of define for yourself what your values really are, what your what do you want your life trajectory to look like and feel like. And from that, you can see like, oh, these things really matter to me. And like volunteerism is super important to me. So when I go to the shelter and I volunteer, it like really fuels my soul and brings me joy. So it's helpful in that respect. I think it's also super important to think about dimensionality in your experience of joy, right? Like, is it a sensory joy? Is it a relationship joy? Is it creativity joy? Like, I love being creative. I don't really want to do it with other people, but like by myself or like with a few select people, then being creative brings me a lot of joy. If I have to do it in a group of like 10, 15 people, I'm stressed out and uncomfortable. Like, so what is the situation that brings you that kind of joy? Where is it? And
I was thinking that it's really necessary to have that variety, because there are some times where you need the joy and you don't want to be around people, or you do want to be around people. I mean,
right.
or you don't want to be around people, but you should be around people. But like there have been times where I don't want to be around people, but I know I should be around people. But I just needed someone to come and like sit and watch a movie with me.
Right.
And I wasn't sure who that person would be, or like to watch a puzzle with, to do a puzzle. Like you just, there's a variety of needs that you have. Sometimes you do need somebody that you can talk to, but sometimes you really don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But you still need something that can fill that. Like I need to have something that feels good right now.
Right.
Often for me, it's a warm beverage.
Yes. Although it's summer almost, so maybe it'll be a cold beverage soon.
I do love cold beverage. I just love beverages.
Yeah. No, I know. And
non-alcoholic, oddly enough. Like
yes,
I just
yes.
love beverages.
I know it's a thing. So as you think about what would even go on your joy list, consider some of those questions or make up questions of your own that'll help you, think about what it is that brings you joy. The other thing I really like about a joy list is it helps you say no. So it helps you recognize, I don't have to do this thing that brings me no joy and is not really a reasonable expectation to put on myself, right? Like there's things we have to do that don't bring us joy that we just have to do them. Like the laundry is never going to bring me joy, but I can't wear dirty underwear. So, I have to do the laundry. But I could say no to an invitation to a giant painting party because that won't bring me joy and I don't have to do it. Like I could just be like, you know what, that's going to be stressful. So no. But I could, I can recognize those things and pick and choose. So it's helpful to do this kind of list for a multitude of reasons. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about what brings you joy and how to make a list for yourself.
As an aside, I really enjoy those giant painting parties. What I don't enjoy is having those giant paintings then. Like I don't know what to do with them. Like I don't need a painting that I'm not a good painter. I don't need them in my home. I don't know what to do with them. My kids then get excited that I have them and then I have to secretly throw them out.
Right.
I find it very stressful. So I've stopped going to them purely because I don't want the painting.
Well, see, there's another layer of like, why do we say no? It doesn't bring you joy in a certain way. So I think it's, it's a valuable thing. We'll take another break in a minute, but I want to just get started on this conversation of barriers to joy and like, what is getting in your way? And now that's a question like that applies to a whole host of things, right?
Yeah.
I think. But specifically with respect to cultivating joy. And I like that phrase in particular, cultivating joy, because that's what we're doing. We're growing joy in our lives and we're rooting out things that do not bring us joy that we don't need. So it's a very like, despite the fact that I can't keep a plant alive
I was
to,
like going to say, I'm picturing a whole like farm growing joy,
I
little
know
joy
that's
plants.
yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking, except that I kill every plant that comes near me. So sorry, plants. But there are, a million reasons you could say I can't do X, Y, and Z to feel joy in my life. And a lot of them are valid. Some of us are working 14 jobs and have kids and have, households and have payments to make and things like that. And it's really, really hard to conceptualize making time for joy. Now, one of the reasons we want such a diverse joy list is because of that, right? We want everybody to be able to access joy, and everybody is able to access joy. It's there for anyone. Like it's not restricted to, people who have like 10 hours available in their day to look for it. That's not how it works.
Well, and I'll just say this really quickly. It's one of my favorite things about joy is that to me, it can kind of, yes, like, listen, we are talking about all the ways that joy that you can cultivate it. But when you do put in the effort to cultivate it and grow it and root out the things that are preventing it, then it can like sneak up on you. Because when you are cultivating, when we are practicing gratitude, when you are practicing mindfulness, when you are setting the tone, when you have your joy list, then it can just like come out of nowhere because you're open to it. Then you can like find yourself like bent over laughing. I mean, I think joy comes from friends who share Instagram like funny things. That is where I get a lot of joy.
Yes, same.
And like I think that like then you can end up just laughing at things and finding joy just like sneaking up on you.
Yeah.
And like that's my favorite kind of joy, is like joy that like I didn't plan on, like
Right.
unexpected joy that just snuck up on me, or something new to add to my joy list. And so, you do all of this effort and farming of joy, and then you just have it pop out at you. And it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think a lot of people are resistant to the idea of joy, and not necessarily consciously or intentionally. I think there's just a lot of barriers that come up. I think we probably should take another break. And then when we come back, I have another list for us because, why not? Of steps you can take to challenge your own resistance to joy. So let's take a break, everyone, and we will be right back.
Hey, pod friends, it's us again. Looking for a place to collaborate, an opportunity to share your knowledge? Have you been working so hard on a podcast, book, course, product, or retreat? Do you have insights that could light up our podcast? Well, we want to hear from you. We would love to support you in all that you are and do. Join us at Go Boldly Initiative, where we celebrate diverse perspectives and share the wisdom of our incredible community. Whether you're an expert, a hobbyist, or simply love learning, we invite you to reach out with your ideas. Visit our website at goboldlyinitiative.com/podcast guests to pitch the show, or shoot us an email at hello@goboldlyinitiative.com to talk all things collaboration, advertising, and affiliation opportunities. Become part of our growing family. Let's make learning an adventure together.
Okay, welcome back to the show. So before the break, I was saying, a lot of people feel resistance to cultivating joy or the existence of joy or seeking out joy, any of those things. And I definitely have been in that camp, and possibly for the last like month or so have been in that camp. And it requires you to challenge your own belief set, whatever it is, and your own resistance to joy in your life. And so I was doing the research for this one and ran into somebody who focuses on this resistance by challenging it with this sort of 6-step process. And she talks about it from the perspective of internal family systems, which I don't fully understand. I'm going to be very honest about, but I did read it and I sort of took away from it what we're going to share with you. And I think a lot of this should resonate with people. But according to internal family systems, our minds consist of multiple parts, each with its own beliefs, emotions, and motivations, right? So um, basically, you have many people inside your brain and they all have a system. And so while everyone in you, every part of you has good intentions for you, there are parts of you that either because of trauma, social conditioning, I don't know, you had a bad day, parts of you that will associate joy with negative things like danger or disappointment or vulnerability or sadness or emotions that you all, in all likelihood, try to avoid. And so, what we have to do is acknowledge that experience and try to understand it, and then, try to break through it, right? Try to break through that resistance. And by doing so, you open yourself up to joy more.
Well, I do want to just intercede here because whether it's conscious or subconscious, unconscious, I always forget it's subconscious. Unconscious, you just be like asleep trying to step in.
I do that too.
Subconsciously. Brene Brown, who we may have mentioned last week, but either way, we haven't mentioned her in about 8 weeks.
Right.
Talks a lot about how joy is you have to be the most vulnerable to experience joy.
Yeah.
Because it is a big, big risk, right? Like it is a risk because it is one thing to feel a sad emotion and then, okay, it gets taken away. Who cares? Like,
right.
Great, take away my sad emotion. Ooh. Threaten me again. Like, it's another thing to feel joy and be open to feeling joy and then have that taken away. Something you're like, I finally have found the peace and the mindfulness and I'm open to feeling this joy. And then you're going to give me the ability to blow out my knee. Like, right. What now? Like, what else are you going to throw at me? Are you kidding? Like, and so I think that she talks about how you have to have the most vulnerability to be able to allow yourself to experience joy. Yeah. Because it is the scariest. So whether it is subconscious or conscious, I think it is much easier to stay within the margins of your emotions and to be like, I'm okay not being that happy. Like, I'll just be like content, but I don't really think we can like truly be content without joy.
Yeah.
I don't think you can actually get to contentment
right
without joy. I would argue that, last year, was it last year? I guess around November, I had a lot of conversations with people about contentment, oddly enough, and like what the meaning of that word actually meant. And I think that there are people who get contentment from all sorts of things, but they may derive joy from all sorts of different things too. And I think that even in some of your research, it talked about that feeling of contentment. You do need joy to feel content.
Yeah.
And joy isn't always yippee, like that you see little kids on like Christmas morning. I think that's what people associate joy with.
Right. And I that is more like joyful, right? Like,
yes,
we were saying way back in the beginning of the episode.
Right. That is why my word of the year is not that word. It's not joyful, JOYFUL. It is JOY-FULL, right. Like full of joy.
Right.
And so I guess it could just be a phrase, but I'm having more fun with the dash.
You like the hyphen. It's all right.
I like the hyphen. It's more fun. Or it could be like joy parentheses. Remember when Gap had that like a whole like Gap for a very long,
yeah.
Right? They had like a whole ad campaign with the parentheses. Maybe I'm leaning. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's no hyphen. Maybe it's a parentheses thing. Anyway, I do think it's important to know that like if you're listening to this and you're like, of course I want joy in my life, but you're also being like, but I just don't know where it is and I don't know how to get there. There could be a big subconscious thing being like, well, it seems kind of unsafe over there with the joy.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize that that's happening. And that's just like, it's very legit if that's what's going on.
Right.
Renee says so.
So how do we challenge that? According to the research I did, the first step in challenging that resistance is recognizing it and acknowledging it, right? So if you, like Tova just said, if you're like, I don't know, I guess maybe take a look and like do like an internal mental inventory and think about this and see what inside of you is resistant to the joy, right? It's not saying that you're wrong for having that feeling. It's not saying you're wrong for being resistant to joy, because as Tova just said, it's a huge risk. Being vulnerable like that is a huge risk. And on the flip side, it also builds resilience because joy doesn't last forever, right? Like things happen in our lives. And the more we turn those things around and then start looking for joy again, the more resilient we become. And that's a good thing.
Real fast, one of my favorite things about joy is I have no expectation for it to last forever.
Right.
I'm not asking it to last forever. I'm not looking for it to last forever. I'm okay if it lasts for 2 minutes. If it lasts for a whole evening, that's amazing. I am okay if it lasts for a couple sips of coffee, or if I have a couple joyful moments in an evening with friends. Like I think it's one of the best things about joy. We put way too much pressure on happiness.
Oh my God.
We have so much expectations on like the American dream and happiness and manifest destiny and racism and all this stuff. Like,
yes, I shouldn't laugh at that, but like, it's just so absurd.
Well, yeah, like we put so much pressure on this nonsense. I mean, isn't happiness like the pursuit of happiness is in our freaking Declaration of Independence, or
right? Should have been the pursuit of joy, fellas.
Yeah, right. But like joy isn't even expected to last forever.
Right.
It can be moments of joy. You can grab them, you can hold them. I picture them, these little like bubbles from that, not bubbles, but like little floaty things that might come in. And they're just there for a little bit. And if you get them to last, when you have those magical nights where like you have a game night and the kids don't fight the whole time, but they actually like, you actually have fun and no one fights.
Yeah.
And then like you go to bed and you look back and you're like, oh my God, we just made a core memory. And I'm going to talk about that night so many times, and they're going to forget about the nights that they fought. And then I'm going to ruin their parenting because they're going to be like, why can't I be the parent that creates the game nights like my mom
where
did?
Everyone was happy all the time forever.
Right. But like, that's the best thing about joy. It doesn't have to last. It's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's why we have a list with 100 things on it, because you just keep trying to create it again.
Right. All right. So step 2 of challenging your resistance to joy. And this continues on the same theory. You're going to establish a connection and a dialogue with your resistance. It sounds so weird, right? Like I talk to myself as if I'm another person sometimes. I don't know if other people do that, but it is handy in this particular scenario to do it that way, because then you're like, come here, resistant part, like, what's the problem? Let's talk about it, right? And you're not judging it. You're not being mean. You're not like, get out of here. So you can understand, all right, I'm having this conversation with myself. Where is this resistance coming from? Why is it there? Like, I'm being empathetic with myself. And then step 3, understanding the intentions behind the resistance. So if you can look at it and recognize that the intentions are good, right? Like your own intentions for yourself are generally good and you want to protect yourself. And there's some sort of risk that you're seeing. You're making a risk assessment and you're seeing, oh, I don't know, if I reach for that, it could go so wrong. And so you can be more empathetic with yourself, you can be more compassionate, all of those things. And you can validate that intention and be thankful that you're trying to protect yourself. And step 4, expressing that appreciation and reassurance. You could say to yourself, I'm really happy. We're looking out for us. It's a, good job. Thank you. also, I really want to find a way to experience joy that aligns with your concerns and intentions, right? Like it sounds so funny. As I'm explaining this, I'm like, oh, people are going to think I'm bonkers, but like, it really does work. Step 5 is healing and integration. So you need to guide yourself, the resistant part of yourself, to understand that the risk is worth taking, right? That there are so many upsides that you might as well just try it and see what happens. And that there's other ways to protect yourself that don't involve not finding joy, right? Not seeking joy. And then the final step is like nurturing and transformation. So you want to support that resistant part of you in making the transformation, in figuring out what is a different way to look at the joy you're seeking. What is a different way to figure out how to keep yourself safe? And if you do all of that, and it's probably not going to be like step 1, step 2, step 3, right? It's going to be more of like a 5-second conversation with yourself where you're like, look, self, this isn't actually protecting me. It's okay. I've got us. We're going to be fine. Here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to keep ourselves safe. Let's go for it. Right. It's like, It doesn't have to be like a week-long process. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, I think sometimes, one step is a week-long process because you get stuck.
Yeah, that's true. That is a fair point. And it may be something you need to work through with a therapist. Like if you're really resistant to the idea of seeking joy in your life, you may need professional help to work through that with you, or a coach to help you kind of acknowledge that that's what's going on and like, take the steps we just talked about. I think that that's the kind of thing where having an objective third party could make a huge difference in your life.
For sure. For sure. So as we wrap up, how do we cultivate joy in our daily lives? So there's quite a few ways to do this. And I like them all, right? So I like the idea of scheduling regular joy breaks throughout the day. I was talking to a nutritionist about, as I went back to work, making sure I ate lunch. And part of what she said was like, well, there were a couple of things, and I'm just going to share them with you in case you struggle with the same thing. I'm so afraid that I'm not going to have time to eat during the day that I eat too much for breakfast. It doesn't always happen, but then she's like, and it's no wonder that you aren't hungry at lunch. But then I am hungry at like 2 when I have to go pick up the kids.
Right.
So, but then I don't have time to pick up, like, then I don't have time to eat until dinner. And also, you don't have to eat lunch at noon, just as an aside. Like in my head, I was always like, you eat lunch at noon. And she's like, or you could eat lunch at 1:30. Like that's another time of the day that you could eat lunch. So anyway, that has nothing to do with joy. But she also said, she's like, try making the time that you eat lunch enjoyable. Like, just like make it nice. Like whether it's like putting on a show you like, right? Like I've been trying to start to watch The New Girl. I stopped for a while because I was laughing too hard, and it was when my stomach still hurt and I couldn't watch it, but I could watch it now. I could laugh again. So, but like, that could be a joy break. Like I could think of lunch as a joy break and just put on The New Girl at 1:30 and like watch The New Girl, eat some lunch and laugh and have a joy break. But joy breaks could also be like 3 minutes. I could like go and stand with my bare feet in the grass. That would be such a lovely joy break. It could be a dance party in my kitchen in the middle of the day, which was also great for like your nervous system, and moving, rhythmic movement in the middle of the day is so good.
I mean, it could be as simple as like when you're at your desk, just closing your eyes for a second and taking a deep breath. Like you don't even have to move sometimes.
Yes, 100%. Also so think of some things on your joy list that are things that you could be like if coffee brings you joy, like you said, maybe you have a spinny seat and just spin the other way so you're not facing your computer, and make sure you take a couple sips and like just some deep breaths and some sips facing the other direction, and just like visualize not being in front of your computer.
Yeah.
I love this one, and I do this a lot, infusing mundane tasks with elements of joy, whether it's music, I tend to do music. Like I listen to musicals a lot when I'm doing mundane chores or podcasts I like, frankly, like especially ones that make me laugh. I have a new favorite podcast called Handsome that I find to be hilarious. And those bring me joy. But listening to music while you do chores, it's one thing that when my kids push back on chores, I'm like, put on music, guys. Like, find some songs you like and listen to them. And they're like, oh, yeah. Like, they forgot music existed. They even listen to music all the time, except when they have to clean their room. And then they forget that it exists.
Right.
But I think it's just prioritizing that, like, you can choose to do these things. Like, you can choose to listen to music that makes you happy. You can choose to listen to podcasts that make you laugh. You can seek out things that give you joy. If it's maybe it's something that's more calming, like whatever it is, like you can, and that's why we encourage you to make the list so it fits you. Another thing is starting your day with writing down what you're grateful for. This is usually gratitude's always the basis to all this stuff. It helps you get that baseline. Practicing gratitude helps just get that baseline, because if you're practicing gratitude, it makes you aware throughout the day. So then it's easier to figure out what brings you joy.
Yeah.
Because in all likelihood, it's probably something that you're grateful for. Can you explain this joy trigger explanation to me?
Joy trigger exploration. So I think what they're trying to, this is how I took it. And if you wrote this and I'm wrong, let us know. But essentially what they're saying is you want to discover new things that trigger joy for you. So as we've said, I don't know how many times at this point, you've got to try new things in your life. You can't stay in your own like little bubble and never try anything outside of it and expect to grow. Like that doesn't work that way. And so what they're saying is try new things, try a different activity that you've always wanted to do, but you've never like had the courage to try or had the time to try, or whatever is keeping you, whatever that resistance is that we talked about before. And if it's money, that's different, and if it's time, that's also different, I think. But if it's just fear, like if you're just afraid to do it, then like break through that fear barrier, go ahead and try it and see see what it does for you. Does it trigger joy for you? If not, okay, you've tried something new and no harm, no foul. If it does, great, add it to your joy list. Like, there you go. You found something new to put on your list. The other things on this list that I liked that they added were like random acts of kindness. So a lot of people don't think about that as if it's a joy process or as if it's cultivating joy, but it really is. Like if you do something really nice for somebody else, like in a simple thing, like help somebody carry their groceries or, pay for somebody's coffee or whatever, those, or, even easier, just complimenting somebody, just saying, hey, I really love the way you wrote that email. Thank you. It gave me a great template to use in the future. I don't know. Like those little things can make a huge difference in somebody else's life, but your own as well, because it feels good. It feels good to be kind. Like it feels good to be kind. And then the other thing on this list, and there's a million of them, and we'll share all this with you guys, but is to embrace playfulness. And this is a little bit of what you talked about, Tova, but I just want to go into it a little deeper. And that the thing that I like about this is it asks you to look at what you enjoyed when you were a child, right? Did you like coloring? Did you like dancing in the kitchen? Did you like, going for walks with the family dog? I don't know. What did you enjoy? And then recreate that for yourself as an adult. Experience it again and find that sort of free, playful joy that you might have had before, before like the multitude of responsibilities of life hit you. And help yourself immerse in that sort of joy. It's a very freeing kind of experience. So we're almost done with how you make the joy list. There's a couple things here that I want to share about steps you can take to cultivate joy. And this is something that I think goes right along with the gratitude you were talking about, Tova, and that is just take a minute in your day, whether it's like when you go to bed or if you have dinner with anybody, take a moment to identify one positive thing from your day, whether it's like something big, like you had a success at work that you're really excited about, or if it's just like, you know what, the subway ride home wasn't that hot today. Like, whatever it is, there are things that you can find in your day that are positive. And so taking a minute to figure that out and write it down, or share it is a great tool for cultivating joy. And then the other thing I like on here is try to practice positive reappraisal. And this is, again, it's not silver linings. You can't forget that things happen in life that are not ideal, right? But you can identify an event or a daily activity that is a real hassle. That's something like you're like, oh, I don't want to. And then try to reframe it in a more positive light. The example they give is if you're stuck in traffic, try to savor the quiet time. Or, like Tova would put a podcast on or like a book on tape. Dating myself, an audiobook or whatever. And try to focus on the thing that you can control, which is your reaction to the situation, right? Like I clearly hate doing laundry because I talk about it a lot. But like I at least when I do laundry, I can watch a show, right? Like maybe I'm doing laundry and it's kind of boring and I don't enjoy it, but I'm, getting to watch, I don't know, I'm going to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer because she brought it up the other day. And I'm like, ooh, I do want to rewatch
I just started the rewatch.
Yeah. And so like I can get a few episodes in or whatever and like not feel like I haven't done what I needed to do for the day. So there are a million ways you can reframe these things without like, yeah, it stinks to be stuck in traffic. Like you'd rather be home or wherever you're going, but you're stuck in traffic and you don't control it. So what are you going to do?
Here's a perspective, and it's also just the perspective shift, right? So like you're saying, like whenever I'm stuck in traffic, the two things, especially if it's a traffic because of an accident, I remind the kids that we are so thankful that we were not in the accident.
Yeah.
Because their day is so much worse than ours, especially like when we're headed on vacation or something, or we're headed to a family party or like somewhere where the kids are excited to go. It's just like, be so thankful that like we are not in that accident because somebody's day is so much worse than ours.
Yeah.
And also be thankful for the medical, like all the people who are responding, right? Yep. Like, aren't we lucky that there are people who are responding? And then I am always so thankful for cell phones because, so I don't know if I was a holdout. We didn't get cell phones until I want to say June of 2021. I don't know if that makes us holdouts or not, but it was like June of 2021 because my mom and I were going to meet to go to a Phillies game and she was coming from one direction and I was coming from New Jersey. She was coming from Lancaster and we were going to Philadelphia. We were both stuck in horrible traffic. We were meeting at King of Prussia. We were coming from opposite directions. We did not have phones.
You mean 2001 or 2020?
Did I say 2021?
Yeah, I was like, you definitely had a phone before then.
I did. 2001, June of 2001.
Yeah.
And we did not have phones and we had no way of telling the other person that we were both running late. And that is what pushed us over the edge to get phones. And so we were kind of late on the phone train anyway, because it was like, we don't need phones. Or we were like right in the middle.
You're
of
right
the
in
phone
the
train.
middle. Yeah.
We weren't early adopters.
Right.
But it was like, I think my mom, that was the thing. And she was just like, this was ridiculous. If we had phones, we could have just told the other person because we were both late.
Right.
Like, and we had no idea. And it was so stressful.
Yeah.
And so one thing, especially if I'm in a really like long backup, is I always remember, like, at the very least, I can tell the people that I'm going to meet that I can't meet them or that I can, and with kids, like if you're trying to get kids, like, yes, it totally sucks. But like, can you imagine parenting when you're trying to rush somewhere and not being able to tell the people that you're trying to get your kids, like, I can't get to them.
Right.
And obviously people did it for decades, but like,
yes, but it's different. It's different now. The capability makes it easier, right? And
Yeah.
so knowing
Yeah.
that, like,
And
yes,
it's just it is not
important.
a silver lining, but the perspective is real. The perspective is real.
Yeah.
And then yes, because of the cell phone, I can listen to my podcast, and that brings me joy.
Right. All right. So we're gonna wrap it up, I think, there. And we've given you a million and one ways to make a joy list at this point. And so naturally, the homework is to go ahead and make your joy list. So take any of the tools we've given you today and start writing things down and just see how it goes. Like, give it a try. It's not going to hurt you. Once you've made a joy list, like start with 5 to 10 things. I think, Tova, you said that in the beginning. And see what happens. And then you can always add to it as you go along. Share it with us. You can send it to us via email, or you can share it with us on social media at Go Boldly Together. And if you are looking for more joy in your life, join our weekly women's circle. It is a joyful place to be, and it's a place to share your successes and celebrations and struggles and all those things, and find ways to cultivate joy in your life. So if you are interested, you can find out more from our website, goboldlyinitiative.com, or you can click on our link in our bio in our Instagram account at Go Boldly Together. So I think that is it for this week. As I said at the very beginning, we are thrilled to be a member of the Power Moms Network. Check them out when you can. It is a very cool place. And we will be back next week with another episode of how to live your most fulfilling best life. Until then, everyone, we will see you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to We Go Boldly podcast. We know you're busy and we love spending time with you.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. Head to Apple Podcasts right now to rate and review our show. While you're there, be sure to click that subscribe button.
Want more us time? Follow us on all the socials at Go Boldly Together.
Want even more us time? As in all the coaching pizzazz. Find us at goboldlyinitiative.com for all the info.
We will be back with more excitement, research, and deep thoughts next week.
Until then, keep on being the bold, brave, amazing people we know you already are.
The Power Moms Network, empowering moms to lift the world.